As Anchor Girl lovingly prepares me a coffee, I got a story to tell you. And it's got something to do with that crazy kitty cat that lives on the boat.
What did he do?
Oh. Yeah, so my story goes back to this past Saturday. We had a beautiful day on the boat. We didn't go out, we didn't do nothing. Actually, we just vegged. We just relaxed and just sat around, talked to neighbors, having a good time, enjoying ourselves, just very quiet pleasantness. So Saturday night we had our little fire pit going, and we had some of the neighbors by, and I guess around 9:30 or so, just before 10 o'clock, the mosquitoes come out in force, so everybody bailed back to the boat. So Anchor Girl came back, and we were just sitting here in the cockpit, listening to some music, and entertaining our little pussycat. So about 10:30, we decided, okay, we're going to bed. So we go down into the cabin and try to entice little Tiny to come down into the cabin with us. Sometimes can be a challenge at night because cats are nocturnal. He likes to run around and play and be goofy, which is fine. So we went inside, and I said, come on, let's go, we're going to bed. And he chose to stay out here. So what I do is, I'm just going to turn this around. So what I will generally do, if he doesn't come right away, I just like to play with him by closing the door. So I close the door. Yeah, of course, and then he starts to meow and carry on, like, oh, don't leave without me. So I open the door. As I'm opening the door, an alarm goes off. Right, honey?
Yeah.
So this is 10:30, 20 to 11 at night, and you hear alarm. Oh my God, what is going on? Because there shouldn't be any alarms going off on the boat. So I came up to the helm and checked and looked, and again, I'll spin this around, and the halon system light was on. So I expected that meant that the system had discharged, which would be very unfortunate because that can be really messy.
I think the light would be red, wouldn't it, if it discharged?
Well, what does the actual word say there?
Charged. See, the green light is charged. Light off. Unit discharged.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, that's the only light you see that's on the dash at night. You just assume that's
right.
what it is.
And at 10:30, 20 to 11 on a Saturday night, your head isn't the clearest of manner as it should be. So again, I look at that and it's like, what the hell's going on? Now, Anchor Girl had the presence of mind, I don't know how you figured that out, to shut off the ignition. Right? Okay.
Yeah.
Let me take you inside and show you what I'm talking about. On this boat, and I probably showed you this before, I'm sure I've shown you this before, the way to start the engines is you got to do 3 procedures. First of all, turn on the breakers. This is the 12 volt power supply to the ignition. So you see port ignition, starboard ignition, and then of course turn the keys on. So I generally leave this on all the time, all through the season, because I have no reason to shut it off. Because the other thing, so now this means it's ready to go, right? So it's good to fire. And then simply, once you want to start the engines at the helm, you push the ignition buttons. This is one for port, one for starboard. And watch what happens when I push that button. See that?
See the green light came on?
Yeah, okay, because the halon system is actually tied to the port engine. So watch. Alarm, light comes on. So again, in the haste and confusion of the moment, I just said, okay, keep the switches off, because when she shut that off, the alarm stopped, right? So I'm going to check down in the engine compartment and make sure that the system hasn't discharged, and if it did, if there's an issue down there. So I'm poking around in my loungy pants and my underwear sticking out of them and trying to determine what's going on. I'm down there, I had the lights on, and everything looked fine. The halon system is just a big fire extinguisher, and of course it's got a gauge on it, and it showed pretty much right in the middle in the green zone. So everything's good. All right, try the key again. Beep, try the key again. And it's like,
Yeah, key's on. That's what I put the breakers on. That's just the keys I've been doing on and off. So starboard's on, port's off.
Right.
Starboard's off, port's on. Port's off.
okay. So the third time she did that, over the buzzing noise, that whining alarm, which the cat hates, by the way, is I noticed that something was engaged on the engine, almost like something was starting to run. Okay, you know what? Forget it. I'm going to bed. Leave it alone. Keep everything shut off. Everything looks safe and secure. And we'll go to bed, and I will investigate it in the morning. So in the morning, what I did was, of course, ask Google what's going on, and everything was pointing to the my query was about the halon system. So of course, all the returns came back to it. Now, if you ever want really, really good resources for boating questions, clubsearay.com is awesome. I've been a member for over 10 years. No, I don't post there anymore, but if you do a Google search for Sea Rays or Mercury engines or stuff like that, the chances are the guys have talked about it and come up with solutions to their problems. Ooh, that's a bit better. It's getting really humid inside the boat. So anyways, as I was thinking to myself, I said, Self, I don't think this is a halon problem. It's an electrical fault of some sort. So that brought me back to my thought, well, with the key on, I hear something running, and what I think that was the actual fuel pump on the port engine starting to charge up and pressurize. Yeah, I'm a dummy. But so this is what I determined had happened that night. Again, I'm just gonna turn this around. Remember that silly little pussycat who likes to sit up on the dash a lot because, of course, great view. When he got all panicky and worried that Mommy and Daddy are going to bed without him, we locked him out of the cabin. And the last time I opened the door, that was his chance to jump in there with us. And so what he did was, when he jumped from here, he hit that switch and then jumped down. And ta-da! Problem solved.
Now the keys go off.
Why?
Because
you have a goofy little pussycat on board.
Exactly.
Now, I only have myself to blame for this, because I remember reading an article not too long ago, and they were talking about problem solving. And the gist of the story was, when people try to, if they're confronted with an immediate problem, usually people's minds go all over the place and look for the wildest and greatest solution, whereas one should always start with the basic, most simplest thing. The first thing to check should have been the ignition, because it sounded like the ignition was on, but whatever. In the haste of the evening, that was that. So I'm glad that we had that figured out. And like Anchor Girl says, from now on, if the boat's not going to be engaged, I'm not going to shut the keys off. I'll just kill the power at the panel to those switches. And then when we're ready to go, I hope to be able to remember that those switches were off before I tried to start. And then it gets a panicky, why aren't the engines starting? I don't think that's ever happened. I did actually recently, going through the locks a couple of weeks ago, one of the engines wouldn't go, and it wasn't fully engaged into neutral. I think it's just, again, when we're going through the locks, we tie up and leave the engine running, of course, until we're secure, and then I'll jump back to the helm and just boom, boom, shut the engines off at the switches at the helm. And sometimes, I could boink the shifter. I did that when we're at the bottom of Lock 43 during our epic 2018 boat cruise. Yeah, so again, speaking of our 2018 epic boat cruise, we hope very soon to be within the next week starting our epic boat cruise 2021. So with that in mind, we took the Sea-Doo out of the water today, put on the trailer, and we're just going to store it in the compound here at the marina. Generally it sits out front of Boogaboo in the water, but we had an issue with that.
And no, it's not for sale.
What was that?
And no, it's not for sale.
Okay, Anchor Girl's trying to convince me that it's a good time to sell that thing.
No,
but
I am
keep
not.
saying no.
We're not selling.
Why not, honey?
Because it's not for sale.
Why?
Your granddaughter would be so upset with you.
And her parents can buy her one themselves.
Why? We already have one.
So anyways, keep an eye out on Kijiji. You might see a really good deal on a 2017 GTI.
No.
No, just kidding. We're going to keep that until we use it towards a trade on the next boat. So anyways, pay no attention to that voice that you hear in the background. So that thing got pulled out. Like I said, we generally keep it right tied, moored at our boat slip. But since there's not a whole lot of movement around here, tends to have seaweed building up just in front of the boat. And with the sea-doo jammed up against the break wall, it gets stuck in there. So I went to move it a couple weeks ago. It has sucked in up a bunch of weeds, so the thing was immobile, wouldn't go. It was overheating actually. And so I was fearing that I would have to tow it over to the launch ramp with the dinghy and then haul it out and clean it out and fix it up. But then, like Anchor Girl suggested, we might as well just pull it out and leave it out for the duration of our holiday, so it's not sitting here all by itself and getting lonely. So I pulled it up to the end of the finger dock where it's out of the weeds and fired it up. And actually, sorry, I'm lying. I took the hook underneath as much as I could reach and pull out that stringy seaweed, and it fired up, and it was all good. So I drove it over. Long story short, it's on the trailer, and we're going to take it to the compound now and park it, so that is ready to go. So then we are ready to go for our holidays, pretty much. Good. Should be good. Yeah, so final thoughts is that we are eager and eagerly anticipating the start of our 2021 Epic Boat Cruise. The weather continues, as you can see, to be kind of cloudy and crappy. Again, it's forecast rain today as well as the rest of the week. And yeah, whatever. But it's a decreasing chance of rain. It's going down to about 40% chance by the end of the week. And actually, the weather liars are prognosticating 4 days of straight sun for next week. So wouldn't that be something novel and different, eh? So it could be that we picked the best time to go. So yeah, we're looking forward to having some sunshine, because that would be so wonderful, so awesome. I think there was one more thing that I wanted to mention, but I can't remember, so I'll save it for the next one. So that's it for today. Just a boring recap of what's going on, and a word to the wise: if you've got a cat on board, shut your ignition keys off.
Probably most people do that anyway.
What?
Shut their ignition keys off.
Okay.
I think we're the only ones that leave it on.
Yeah. Anchor Girl just says, I don't know if you heard it, but she says we're probably the only ones that leave it on, but what's the point of shutting it off? We have no points in the ignition to burn out. So okay, so that's what we're gonna do from now on, and maybe you might want to consider doing that yourselves or not. That's entirely up to you. Anyways, it's a great day. It's a great boating day, and at some point I have to leave here and go back to work. So I will see you in the next one. Till then, cheers.